Hello, a little talky video today. In a way, a reply to some comments. I might put a video down at the bottom, but I'll kick off by saying yesterday I listened to, there's in the list over there on the right, are something called downloadables, I think I've called them, are places that do audios or videos. I always, even if it's their videos, you can generally get the MP3 off them, and that's what I do. I listen to them while I'm out working. Okay, so I listened to 2 from the Cato Institute and 2 from Brookings Institute yesterday. The one I might put down at the bottom is the one about Ayn Rand, obviously from the Cato. And it's just in case I forget to say later, I think they're close to fucking crazy, right? I mean, cuckoo. Right. So where should we go with this? What I think the drive of this video is to say there will not be social breakdown anywhere. Why? Because the world can't afford it. Right. I think it was in one of the Cato, no, it was the Brookings talks yesterday. Somebody said something that seemed eminently sensible. The problems in Europe are unsurmountable for Europe. Basically, when it comes down to it, Germany, and you can add in Holland and Austria if you like, can't afford to support, let's say, the debts of the periphery. And we still, the big thing that's happening at the moment is France is moving towards the periphery. And obviously if France is moved to the periphery as well, and away from the core, the balance is completely wrong. The world cannot afford for a depression in Europe. The world cannot afford the euro currency to fall apart. What would happen in the end is that even the United States Congress would vote to save Europe, but indirectly, obviously, it would be the Fed first, and then you get the Bank of Japan, the Bank of China, all the central banks of the world would chip in to help Europe. The world will not let Europe go down, and everything will be done inside Europe, and the world will wait to see Europe get itself in a terrible mess, doing absolutely everything it can to rescue the euro. They just will do it. How should we go with this one? Let's go back to the gold standard. The gold standard worked for not long, it didn't work for long, and it only worked in a vague way. But it was like a heaven-sent system for an economy. Economies don't have any physical systems like gravity or things like that. You've got to make them all up as you go along. And you just don't know where your parameters basically are. The gold system, the gold standard, was a system that to a certain extent worked, as in if a country got too above itself and was spending lots of money on things, the price of its labour went up, so less people were buying from that country. It was buying in from other countries, so the gold from that one country would go outwards until it had so little gold that basically the country then lost its ideas of grandeur and had to then drop its wages down and then work more to earn the gold from other countries, and that worked as a kind of balancing system. It was thrown off by big fines of gold and all sorts, but it was like a heaven-sent system, the gold standard. And this is why they went for it, because in economies, econometrics, They just don't have any systems. They make it up as they go along. I think I said that because I wanted to move on to nowadays, where there's no gold standard, there's only this fiat money thing. And they will, I think, at least try and find some other people. Okay, and this is why I'll put the Cato video up. People will grab onto something that they think is a heaven-sent system. And they I think will grab on to the fact that you should be able to run a balanced government budget. The government could be, as I said earlier, a couple of days ago, 60% of the economy, 50% of the economy, 40%, 10%. It makes no difference. But whatever it is doing in that economy, in other words, politically, democratically chosen that it should be huge, like here in France, or less as it is in America, or less other places, more other places. It's a democratic decision made by the people, and that's how it is. But when that decision is made, the government should be capable of running just about a balanced budget. Sometimes it'll be a bit up and sometimes it'll be a bit down. But I think people will grab onto that as the standard it should be. Now, there's no reason, I don't think, that it should be that way, but in a way a bit like the gold standard, maybe it is. Maybe if you've democratically chosen that 50% of the economy does go through the government, so, for whatever, or all the spending that it does, then that is limited by the balanced budget of the government. You should not go to 8% deficit spending like the United Kingdom and the United States has been doing over the last 4 years. It shouldn't happen. And that's when your debt to GDP ratios go up, because you're stacking that 8% on every single year, and then you get up towards 100%, etc. We understand it happens during wars, and people have always understood it happened during wars. But in the old days, if you won the war, then you basically stole the money from the people that you've beaten, and then you paid your debts back, and your debt to GDP ratio went down, and stuff the people that lost. They can start again with their economy. Now, where am I going with this? So the two drives of this thing are that the world economy will not break down because they will do, and that's the world now, it's not just each region. Each region will have to do enough effort, like the Euro region will have to go through enough effort to see enough pain to show the world that it's done what it can. But in extremis, the world will come in and bail out the Eurozone. With what? They'll make the money up. If anything, they'll do what they can. It is not in anyone's interest that the Eurozone breaks up. This is the problem the Eurozone's got. It's not in the Eurozone's problem that Greece breaks up or Spain breaks up. They will do what they can to try and help those two countries. And while they're doing that, the world looking in on Europe will do what it can to see that the Eurozone doesn't break up. If it happens to be too much for the core to hold on to the periphery, then the rest of the world will chip in. The world cannot afford a huge world depression or societal breakdown. China doesn't want it because it'll have knock-on effects for it. You just think to any country in the world, they don't want it. There might be one or two that might. I can only think of Venezuela that might welcome it, but generally the world can do without absolute depressions leading on to complete social breakdown. It's not going to be good for anyone. I think there will be this grabbing on to something, and I think the thing that they will grab onto is that government should run balanced budgets. There's no reason they should. I'm pretty sure. See, it's economy. You never know. But it's something, and I think it's something that people will grab onto, like these Cato people. The world is full of insecure people. insecure idiots. These Cato people, I'm pretty sure, are insecure idiots. If you listen to this, if you've got an hour and a half, it was quite long, so I haven't got it to check, but it sounds like it might be an hour and a half. If you've got an hour and a half to waste either downloading the MP or watching the video, just look to see how insane these people are. They are worryingly insane. But even these worryingly insane people, in extremis, would spend money that they have not got to keep another region from slipping into social breakdown. Now, again, in comments there was, well, what can we do to protect ourselves from this? And yes, I agree that owning companies like Google and gold would probably be a help in times of trouble. We might hate Google and we might hate gold, but they might help us. I'll leave it there. Just, it would be interesting to see how far you can get through this Cato thing. And just remember in the back of my mind, in your mind, what I've been saying about the madness of people, their insecurity and their desire to grab onto something solid. Austerity, I think, will be pushed through, and it will be being pushed through by people that are trying to get people to grab onto this bar of balanced budgets, because that's, in economy, all that they have got. Otherwise, they've got this vague idea from the Keynesians that you just spend more and more money into the future and then you'll be able to pay it back. But pay it back what for? To get your budget balanced again? It's too airy-fairy what they're saying. There's nothing to grab onto. The balanced budget is the only thing to grab onto, so I think people will grab onto it, be it right or not. And it will lead to terrible austerity. And there will be countries that find that their 60%, 50%, 40%, whatever they've chose of government, has been too big for the amount of tax take. So they're going to have to raise the tax take or shrink that amount of percentage that they are of the government is of the economy, which will mean terrible austerity because people are dreadfully used to the spending at the percentage rate it is now, and the economies as a whole cannot afford tax increases. Obviously, the super rich can. In fact, the rich can, but not nearly enough to plug the holes that will be necessary to keep the government spending up. If people are going to grab hold of this bar of balanced budgets, which I think they will. At least, like in Europe, they'll do it as a demand for countries that they are going to rescue. And these countries will be rescued by hook or by crook, because this is a modern world, and we don't have complete social breakdown in the modern world. Bye.